Sometimes I'm a little slow. Alright, let's see, that needs to come down and over. There we go. That sank down a little bit. So we finished off that Pinacosaurus yesterday. And today got to finish off this page. Looks like I've got some horned lizard drawings and some kind of pterosaur. So armed lizard being in the horned lizard from Arizona. She's pointing out that they're different creatures entirely. So one's a lizard, the legs come out the side, and dinosaurs' legs go down. Yeah, it's interesting to be kind of see what she's interested in. Let's make sure I don't waste a page. Almost at the end of this sketchbook. Alright. That ends position. Good morning, everybody. Got myself a super sleepy dog under my feet. Alright. It is interesting to see kind of how the muscle structure is similar to many other things. Kind of how far back these essential structures really go back in time. zoom in. That'll be where I'll be working in this area anyway for now. Actually, I'm probably going to zoom in up here too. Bring this down over. There we go. Good morning, or good afternoon, I guess. Good morning, everybody. Good morning over there. Yeah, so we got ourselves, continuing with the Terryl Whitlatch studies. And having a good time with it. I do love doing these study projects. One that really sticks out to me from a long time ago now, right after grad school, I got up in the morning and did daily oil painting copies. So you saw some landscape painting guy on YouTube recently. He was talking about doing that kind of thing. So that one always kind of sticks out to me as a memorable study project. But yeah, for those that aren't familiar, I've started this kind of back up a few years ago, but I've been really focusing on it in the last, 18 months. Most of it offline. I only started doing them online kind of recently, but doing these kind of morning study projects where I'm taking the books that I've collected over the years, especially the instructional ones, or informational ones like this one, and copying the drawings while also kind of reading up on the text. And so that's what we kind of got going on here. This is it's the let me grab the bottle over here. It's a Speedball Super Black. So I keep it in a little. I have a little kind of mason jar down here that I keep fresh ink in. So that's what I've got running over there. So usually with these study projects, I usually try to have at least two things kind of going on. So one is to look at the artist, and see kind of what's important to them. And the other is usually some kind of aesthetic or technical development. So in this case, it's the kind of mastering these inking techniques. So like if you were to compare like her drawing is a pencil drawing that she either scans in or she scans them in and prints them out, or photocopies them and then does ink marker coloring on top. Or sometimes she'll color them in Photoshop. But so like the technical process I'm using here is different than what she does or would do. In terms of the rendering and that. So, but I've also done ones where I just have like red ballpoint pens and I was just sketching their pages and then so that's kind of what we got going on here. And then so this is her book. I'm copying from. It's Science of Creature Design. And it's one of 3 books that she's on. I met her briefly at Lightbox, and I guess she's working on a new book. Just lurking? No, that's fine. You know, I don't mind chatting about what I'm doing. There's a question, someone is commenting over on Twitch that they're lurking. I don't mind talking while working if there's any questions. But yeah, so um, yeah, but there's 3 books that she did. They all kind of fit together. They're all part of the. They're all printed by Design Studio Press, and which prints a lot of books related to concept art. Like they did all the Marcus Mateo Meister books, or however you say his name correctly. Um, it looks like it's kind of run by Scott Robertson, and he's kind of, I don't know, doing some weird stuff the last few years. Like he's kind of jumped onto the AI art bandwagon. Like he's been doing stuff with a company called Vizcom. And what their AI stuff does is it basically renders your sketches, so it adds materials and lighting and things to drawings, and I don't know. I don't like it. It's up to obviously people get to live their own lives, but they don't get to keep my support either if they take paths that I'm concerned about. So, but he doesn't like put it on his own socials anymore. But it was like on the Vizcom YouTube page. I'm wondering if he's maybe on their board or something. So that's bit of a concern when you see that. I've seen a number of other artists who I like that have kind of taken that up. I do wonder about some maybe that haven't said that they are using that stuff. I appreciate it. But yeah, so this is like I get up in the morning and I was actually spending a lot more time on these before, like sometimes 2 or 3 hours in the morning. I put on some, Feng Zhu video or other things, and let's see, let's put on some music, huh? But but yeah, I think it's been this project's been really good for me. Part of what it was is I got this new teaching position at generally what's considered a very prestigious program for art in the United States. Like they get a lot of notice, and at Virginia Commonwealth University, it's a big research school. They've got medical schools. They have an affiliation with a campus in Qatar, depending on your preference for pronunciation there. And I got hired here as a research professor, which is interesting. I think I don't know that I have necessarily the mindset for that, because I tend to enjoy teaching a lot. Though it's interesting, they're like what they consider like full-time teaching is like 4 classes, which is SCAD level of teaching. And definitely would not have taken the position if that was the requirement, because I was in Florida. I didn't really like living in Florida, so I was definitely looking at getting out. And I was looking at a couple of spots over there, from there to here at the time. And but yeah, I was only teaching 3 classes there, so if I had come here and it was teaching more, then I definitely would not have considered it. But it does pay a little bit less here, and in Florida you don't have income tax, so that's kind of a bonus in the pay. And then the university down there, they also paid like a lot more for teaching extra classes. But the weather there was just kind of driving me insane in Florida. Which I also did not approve of. Hurricanes aren't a lot of fun to deal with, though we're dealing with our own little kind of problem here in Virginia this week, in Richmond. We are under a boil water advisory. Basically, I guess we're on day 3 now since this happened, which is crazy. Meanwhile, California is burning down, but the Senate boil water advisory. Basically, I guess a water pump broke, and it caused a drop in pressure, according to the reports, the statements from the city, and news reports. But basically, it caused a drop in pressure, which allowed for I guess any drop in pressure increases the likelihood, so I don't know that it necessarily happened, but it allows for bacteria to enter into the system. I guess maybe a backwash or something. So you get these text messages from the city, or actually from my university. There's like a police emergency text that goes out to everybody. And saying, the city is now under a boil water advisory emergency. And so they've been working on kind of getting the pumps back working, so they get the pressure up. And they said they did get the pressure up successfully yesterday, but somewhere in the process, a power panel, it's like a control panel for the electricity, one of them broke down significantly, which caused additional problems. So I don't have clean water. They have been, I guess, putting out neighborhood water distribution or something like that. I guess you can go somewhere and get a bunch of water. I have a little water distiller. It does about a gallon, or I think it's pretty close to like 2.6 liters, which is a little bit more than a gallon of water at a time. I bought it a while ago. I figured I was living in a really old city, which made me somewhat nervous about water quality. And I have fond memories of working as a water delivery guy when I was in my early 20s briefly. And company sold distilled water, which I really liked. I haven't really had it in a long time, so I bought one of those. So I just, I've been with the lower water pressure. It takes a while to like fill up the container, but I'm all stocked up on water. I just can't take a shower, so don't come over. If you will, right? Might be a little stinky. So but it's definitely a problem I did not expect to have. And then I get kind of this emergency email from, we have some new faculty, and we're trying a new thing with this course I have, and it's working with some online faculty, and so I've kind of built out a whole course for them. And I emailed them a couple days ago, say, hey, let's have a meeting on Thursday, and haven't heard back. And then I got this email from this guy last night, from his personal email, not from his university one. I didn't email that one, I emailed his university email, of course, university communications, etc. And he was telling me, oh, I'm trying to figure out this course. I have all these questions. I've been looking at this material. I don't know what's going on. And it turns out he's looking at like an older version of the course that was sent to him. And not the one that I put together. And of course, he hadn't seen my request for a meeting. I still haven't heard back from the other guy. So hopefully get that resolved soon. But yeah, one of the things we're trying to do, which I think is really helpful, is unify course material and experiences for the students, because that way it'll help them get more predictable outcomes. And I think it also encourages the professors to like share their materials and their experiences and their assignments in a way that helps kind of unify that experience for students, so that way they're walking away with a concrete set of skills. It doesn't have to be like the most perfect one or anything. That would be nice too. Alright, page 149. But and like with this concept drawing class, I've put together all these materials for it, but I've also looked at what the other professors who've taught it historically and kind of tried to pull things from them, so that we got ourselves a lounge lizard here. Look at that. So that I can, because there's a lot of things I don't think about, and should probably think about, that would be helpful for the students. So the idea for me, at least, is to set it up in a way that my course is kind of a starting point for the conversation, not the end point. Right, Bosch? And I think we're going to try to put him down here. Actually, I'm going to move this up, so. And that way we can bring it together, and it gives, I think, the students a better overall experience. All right, let's see. Let's make the tail go out to like here. I like that the tail has a third leg, kind of sticking out the bottom. But yeah, so part of where this came from is just the experience I had teaching at that previous school, and kind of seeing that effect on the students, because what it meant, what we could do, which you don't really see a lot at universities, is take content from things that they've learned in a previous semester and actually be able to use it in the next one. Because usually what happens is, because each professor tends to do their own thing, which a lot of times is what they're hired for, right? They're hired for their expertise and their abilities and their unique experiences that they bring to the classroom. But what happens a lot of times is that kind of experience gets siloed or separated off depending on who's teaching it. So you might teach measuring or use certain terminology a certain way, and then your students go into another class and the terminology is totally different and the method is totally different. And it can be really confusing because students are, they have to spend time within a very short amount of time to adapt to whatever this new professor is doing. And I remember seeing that all the time at previous universities I taught at, where, we'd have like a basic freshman drawing class. And I'd have to spend a certain amount of time just catching them up on the techniques I expect them to use, while the other students who had had me recently, they're already kind of in the know, and so they have to kind of wait a little bit for these other kids to kind of be able to do things. And there has to be a certain level of conversation that has to be able to happen, visually at least. And so the way it's set up, it kind of breaks that. And there's definitely been a critique of universities for a long time, since I've been paying attention to it, that, that students get this inconsistent and unfocused experience. And that doesn't mean there shouldn't be, alternative routes and things explored, but I think, part of it is just kind of establishing some rapport among the professors, who often, it's funny the amount of personal beef people will have at these schools with each other, from ancient days, that kind of carries forward into more modern or contemporary issues that have nothing to do with, the students that are there now, and often nothing to do with the faculty that are there now. Like, I finally got an explanation as to kind of some of the history of my department here and why things are a little disorganized, the way they're organized. There's a reason for it, and it has to do with a conflict that was going on like 20 years ago, which to me is just like, it's insane that they would kind of let that be the driving factor for why the department has kind of stayed in the track it's in, especially with now the way the department's been growing. I guess it didn't matter so much for a long time, but the way the department is and has grown, it really needs to be refocused. And so I've been advocating for a new illustration track. I put together a recommended list of courses for that track. Well, basically there's two directions the department should go. One is either it needs to have these tracks going, or actually there's three. So one, it should have these tracks going because the number of students in the program, in order to serve the students, they definitely need more focused tracks. Other thing that probably should happen that would actually work well with that is this program should be separated into its own art school, like its own design program, its own professional kind of communication arts program, because it's starting to be as large or larger than the overall size of the overall size of the entire school. And there's certain things that our students need that they're not getting from the rest of the department. And we definitely have limited resources. Like one of the classrooms I teach in doesn't have walls that go to the ceiling, which is bizarre. So that's two things. So one, it should have these tracks. Two, I think in addition to that, it should be its own separate school with like 4 or 5 majors built into it. Like it's that big. And then the other thing that if those can't happen, or if one of those can't happen, then they should put a lot more strictures on the department so that we don't have so many students coming in. It's a portfolio review process that's maybe multi-layered. Something maybe like I saw at my undergrad program, which is basically they had reviews at the end of, to get into the visual arts program there was a review. To get into the actual major I was in, the first tier of it, there was a review. They let in 40 students, and then they narrowed that down to 20 at the end of the sophomore year. And it was very competitive. But they only had, 3 full-time faculty. And so they had to keep it really small. So they only let in 20 into the senior tier, which meant, everyone else had to say goodbye. And either there's multiple opportunities to reapply as you got better or whatever, but we're doing okay time wise, I guess. But yeah, so I kind of feel like I came in here at a moment of opportunity for developing something interesting at this school. But there's a lot of inertia because it's a big school. A lot of the people, of course, that have been here a very, very long time. But I see a lot of passion in the students and interest in the arts. Despite all of the weirdness going on with the different fads in technology at the given moment. So we'll see what happens, but. this drawing here is definitely a lot more stuff going on. Let's see, the table comes up to about there. Not thick, so I've made the couch way too thick. We've got table leg here. There. So, and then of course my water doesn't work, which isn't great either. I guess this is to go up a little bit higher. There we go. And over. There we go. Didn't realize I'd fallen out of view partially. Tree goes up to about there. It's definitely a prehistoric tree. We have ourselves a little kind of mid-century modern lounge lizard going on here in this little sketch. Got some kind of plumage here on his face, and then it's funny, he's got like this prehistoric print up here, which is funny because obviously, just like everything else in this scene, it would not have existed when this particular dinosaur existed. Let's see, that's up here, and it goes about to there, and goes up, and then goes up right there. And we've got these ancient drawings in there. And then over here, we've got a little star clock. Now, he's quite the dapper fellow, right? It's the Don Draper of lounge lizards. So, yeah, wrapping up to a new semester. I'm excited. I made some adjustments to the course. We had a big powwow, which I think was really, really helpful for me, at least. To see kind of what all the other professors are doing and kind of how a better view of how what I'm trying to do fits in with the course and what I can do to update it to better benefit students. again, just so it's reminded, the drawing I'm doing, I'm studying Terryl Whitlatch. This is from her book, and so that's what I'm kind of drawing here is her sketch she did of this lizard here. Kind of a creative application. So what her book's about, it's about animal anatomy, creature design. It's called Science of Creature Design. And so the point of the book here is to point out real things and then how she kind of uses them in an imaginative capacity. So she's been a long time illustrator in for concept art for films. So I became aware of her because of the prequel movies. So if you look up the Phantom Menace book or any of the prequel movie books, you'll see a lot of her work in there. Her most famous or infamous design, as I like to point out, is probably one Jar Jar Binks. So she designed the Gundam, among other, tons of other things too. A lot of the monsters and other, scary stuff in there, other cool stuff in the films. But that's probably her most well-known design, even if you don't know who she is. I got a lot of cigarettes on here. Now, she says dinosaurs didn't go extinct here because of a meteor or an asteroid impact. It was because of wine, cigarettes, and women and song, which is it's kind of funny. But that's what I got going on here. All right, so we got pencil sketching. Let's get this inked. Let's see how quickly I can do that. So I can stay on for about an hour. And according to the timer, I've got about 12 minutes left, but if I have to go past that a little bit, that's fine too. So maybe I'll pull these out for rendering the furniture. Make sure the ink is running on these first. I haven't used them in a few weeks. This one does have ink in it, right? It does not. That one needs to be reloaded. Actually, maybe I'll do that here. Yeah? Is that how the British usually go out? Yeah, just pull that lid off. Come on, you. That's, I guess, why they have these little wrench tools for this, but I don't have those. How did these come off again? I thought this unscrewed. I think I'll fidget with that later. Let's see, what is the brown one here? 0.5 is pretty good anyway. So do we have ink in this one? We do. Make sure it will flow. Starting to come out. The problem with these, I guess, technical pens is they get clogged, or you don't use them for a while, it dries up a little bit. It slows down the flow. some in there. Just have to get that flow going. There, almost there. Alright, there we go. And then where is my triangle with the lip on it? Just wanted to grab some of these. Actually, we'll start with the picture frame, I guess. Get the little narrow frame. And then come down here. Yeah, I finally bought a set of these earlier this year. I've never used these pens before. These Kohinoor's Rapidograph technical pens. I've always admired them from a distance, but I always just kind of used the fine liners, the microns. So I put the armrest at different heights. I think it goes up here. That's where the ruler comes in handy. Make sure everything's lined up properly. And then, yeah, I've always liked them, you know, and been curious about them. So I finally found a set on eBay. It was like $40 instead of like the 100 and whatever, and only one of the pens had ever really been used. But it is missing the little repair wrenches. So basically, there's these little devices that are used to kind of wrap around, give you a good grip, and to open up the pen, so you can, you know, clean it up or add in ink or whatever. And the one I was just playing with, it seems like it's a little stiff. Now here's a little weird thing that I'm kind of seeing here. Is she put this table leg, or this couch leg right here. Let me push that up a little bit. This is Kohinoor. Let's see, let's get it under there if I can get it. It's a little out of focus, but it's Kohinoor, and it's a Rapidograph. And they come in these. You can get them individually. You can buy sets of them, but they're different thicknesses. And you can put the, you know, your own ink in them, or the ink that they recommended. I'm just looking here. I noticed that the back leg of the coffee table, it's behind the front leg of the couch, which is not possible. So I think if I'm looking at the perspective right here, really this leg right here should be more over, but also should be lower down. That's what I get for being, you know, perspective nerd. And she would not have made this mistake if she'd taken my online perspective classes. Says I to the successful Hollywood concept artist. Yeah, there's different kinds of inks out there. These ones I believe are waterproof. The Speedball stuff I'm using is waterproof as well. Yeah, Kohinoor. I guess they are a Czech company, huh? Because they make like like pastels and other things too, right? I used their stuff when I was living in Hong Kong for my figure drawing classes. So they didn't carry the what do they call those? The what's the name of that? The Conte crowns. It was funny. I went to one of the art supply shops there in Hong Kong, and I was like, "Yeah, I have these classes I'm teaching. We could use these art supplies, and I'd love to be able to send my students to your shop to buy these specific art supplies, like Conte crayons or this type of paper." And the only answer I could get out of him was, "Yes, we are happy to sell to your students." It was like a classic Asian no. Which was really annoying. So I was like, "No, you don't understand. I want these art supplies." And he's like, "Yes, we are very happy to sell to your students." And I was like, "I see. Thanks for not being at all helpful." So I settled on using the Kohinoor pastels while I was there. I don't know if it was the best option or not, but it was. Yeah, but these pens have been around forever. Like, this is a classic illustration tool, that goes back, forever. I don't know how they sold outside the Soviet Union though. Back in, I guess, Czech Republic had a little bit different. Than than Czechoslovakia. I think they had like a little bit more of that glasnost than other places had. But maybe that's why it was available. Because I remember, seeing these as a kid, in the 80s, seeing people have them or being aware of them. Or maybe they only became available, the mid 90s or something like that. Alright, I think that's almost all the straight edges. Alright, now we can switch back to our pen nib. Yeah, but a set of these usually is like $100 and something US, and so, but again, I found it on eBay for a lot cheaper. Used set, and only one of them had been used. I forgot a spot. Let's do that first. The vertical lines on the picture frame. So I was able to, save a ton of money, but it didn't come with the little wrenches. So it comes with these little circular tools that grip where you kind of twist it apart to put in the ink into the ink well, I guess they call it. And that was not in the kit. I didn't realize that when I ordered it, otherwise I might have picked a different one. I'm trying to figure out where I haven't looked in a while, but I have tried to figure out where I can get them. That is flowing a lot better now, which is nice. But I started using them recently because I got them this fall and really like them a lot. I think they're pretty nice to work with. Actually, something I've been thinking about in terms of my university teaching stuff is shifting my concept drawing class to an all traditional media class, and get them to buy the markers and experiment with different drawing media for concept drawing. So I think that's one of the things to kind of maybe think about in terms of all this AI nonsense, is kind of getting that authenticity. And and I think training with traditional media adds a lot to students' confidence and aesthetics, because you can hide so much in digital work. And I work digitally all the time. I use my iPad, and I've got sculpting apps, and I like Blender, and obviously painting and concept art and 2D stuff, using Procreate or Photoshop or Clip Studio Pro or Corel Painter. All those things kind of factor into my background and more. Infinite Painter, of course, I like to advocate for that app on the iPad. It's got, I think, some really unique tools in it. I was playing around with Mental Canvas again recently, but I'm just like, it's just got like, it's weird because they haven't really updated it in a couple of years, so the interface is exactly the same, and it's just kind of clunky the way it's been set up, but it's also extremely expensive, relatively speaking, and I don't know why. Like the creator version of Mental Canvas, it's an app that lets you kind of draw on planes in 3D. So you can, and then it allows you to kind of animate camera movements to the different areas. So you can do these infinite zoom images. You might have seen like Bobby Chu doing those or some other artists. And it's kind of a neat effect. But I don't think it's worth $30. And I don't think it's worth the limitations that the app has. So it works fine, I guess, if you're just doing the drawing part of it, like if you're just doing black and white. But as soon as you want to get into like color, it just becomes a bear. And they have a really limited number of brushes and limited settings. All you can do on the brushes is change the settings, and then you can change the color's opacity. And that's about it as far as editing. So I mean, it's really basic. So there's something always to be said for simplicity, but again, they do make certain things really awkward that I don't like. I bought it a long time ago, so I bought the creator version, which is $30, but their full kind of professional version is it's $60 a month, which is basically the same as a full Adobe subscription. And what you get with that is you can put, because of the way it's done in 3D, you can export out or publish a interactive version of your illustration. So you don't just animate it and watch it move, but you can actually put out a version that people can physically manipulate onto their server. I guess it's set up for that or something, however it works. And that's kind of the service they're providing, and they also, I guess, provide you with some kind of personalized instruction or something once a month if you pay that price. But there's nothing really to learn, from them. Like, the app is really simple. So I don't know that would even be worth the price. Like, there's not a lot to like figure out in it. And so, but recently a guy put out this Taiwan sunflower. If you look him up on YouTube, he put out a plugin for Blender. And he's calling it, like, it's paint something. I forget the name of it. It's like it's not a very memorable name. It's a great little product, but the name is not really that memorable. But anyway, it basically allows you to set up really basic kind of layering stuff. So you paint directly on models with UVs in Blender, like you would in Photoshop. So it's got a little color picker. You can put import your own, or create your own brushes in Blender, and then kind of activate. It's like you can set up planes like you would in, say, Mental Canvas. You can set up some planes, and you can paint directly on them. Now, the ones in Mental Canvas are actually, I think they're vector-based. It doesn't say, or at least I haven't seen it said anywhere, that that's the case, but they appear to be kind of vector-based because of the way they erase and their kind of the type of resolution they have and things like that. Of course, this would be more of the pixel-based ones with the app that this plugin this guy made, this Taiwan Sunflower. But it's free. You released it for free. Obviously, you can make a donation if you'd like. I've been playing around with it a little bit the last few days just to see what I can do with it. Always, of course, apply any changes you've made. I was getting really frustrated the other day with it because I wasn't doing anything different, I thought. And was trying to draw on the surface and like nothing was appearing. It was just kind of messed up, and it turned out I hadn't applied the changes to the plane I was sketching on. So my fault, of course. You know, I anticipated that it would be. I just couldn't figure out what it was, which was annoying. But you know, in Blender, you can go through and you can manipulate camera motions and a bunch of other things. And while it does take some learning to do that, it's not that bad. You know, if you look up like how to move a camera in Blender along a curve or targeted location, you know, it's once you've done it a couple times, it's not that, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So I kind of think that that's a better option if you want to do that kind of infinite zoom type of imagery. I mean, you don't export out the interactive version of it, but if you're just interested in the kind of creation of a 3D background, that works really well. And of course, Blender also has Grease Pencil, which is really fun to play with. You can, you know, draw lines and things on top of models, and it can get a little chunky with the memory because, you know, it's vectors, and so past a certain point, it gets a little can get upset with you. But other than that, you know, it's I need to look at the newer Grease Pencil stuff too. And I've got a lot of things on my plate I need to look at, and there's always, feels like there's always something new going on that's actually of interest to me. So I was playing around with the Quick Tools plugin last night and yesterday. Which is a great little set of concepting tools and that I really like. So, you know, so many interesting things going on all the time. So, Yeah, so that's kind of what's been going on. I need to play with the memory settings. I feel like it's like chugging really hard, and it doesn't need to on my home computer. My computer's 3 years old now, but still, it should be doing better than that. Now we're doing 113. Alright, so this one I thought might take a little bit longer than I thought. Plus, I've been a little chatty on here. This is the classic Hunt 102 nib. It's been around a long time, and definitely has some nice kind of bounce to it. Oh, no problem. And hopefully you have a good start on your own project. So I know art streams aren't usually the biggest ones. So I was kind of looking around, just curious to see what other people do, and I did see there's like Bob Ross art streams going on. I guess his family publishes those or something. Those have like 1,000 people or something watching them, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, I'm just gonna finish inking up this drawing, and that'll be it for the morning session we're doing here. I've got some chores to do. Follow up on those professors, see what's going on. Yeah, I definitely recommend people try out doing their own little study projects. Let's see. If you don't have one. It's weird how her shadows work on here too. Like she just put like little shadows under the legs, but there's like a whole couch on the ground, right? So you'd think the couch would be throwing a shadow. It's interesting. So one of the things I've kind of noticed when I'm working on these master study type works is it's kind of the quirks of things. Like noticing that little perspective issue with the couch here. It's funny because I think this is probably colored in. No, it looks like traditional media. So, but I think she could have scanned it in and then edited the position of those legs or something a little bit. Copy and paste them over. But it's funny, little quirks of spot in there. You look at her work. Mostly, she doesn't do a lot of like full scenes. It's a lot of individual kind of what I would call vignettes of monsters, just the monster by itself, or the creature, or the dinosaur, or whatever. And but yeah, little quirks. Notice. Like, I didn't really notice until I started doing this copy stuff. I didn't pay that close attention to what was in there. I was like looking at these books because the illustrations are really fun and interesting and lots of character in them. But yeah, once you kind of start actually using these books to do copies or studies from directly, you'll start to see kind of little quirks in them. I guess one leg and tail at a time, right? I would think that maybe like the tail thing would be more of a strap-on situation, like you would snaps or something on there. That would be my guess. I'm sure if you were to ask her, she would probably just like, I don't know, I just thought it looked funny, which it does. We've got the tie right there. It's like Andrew Loomis is thought of as this kind of art god, right, because of his books that everybody loves, which I have most of them. I should round off my collection and get the last like 2 or 3 of them now that they're available again. When I was a student, you couldn't buy them anywhere, unless you happened to spot a used copy on eBay or something. from the original printings back in, was it the 40s, I think, is when they were originally printed. And but they started printing them, I think it was 10 years ago now or something. It's been a while. But I was kind of referencing one of his books. This is before they were being printed again, but I had acquired some PDFs of them. And anyway, I was using his book as kind of a reference for perspective, because there really hasn't been a lot of like deep technical perspective books out there. I've since found some that are like older out of print books and things like that, and there are some newer ones now. But when I was teaching this course on illustration, and perspective was an important part of the class. And anyway, I was trying to figure out some of the technical things, and I saw him do a certain thing in there, and he gave the reason why. I was like, oh, I never knew that. And I did it in my class, as part of this class, and a student asked me why. Why did that go there? They're called measuring points. And I did not know at all. So I went home and did some research. I had these old Karl Dobsky videos from the conceptart.org days where he goes into technical perspective. So I went through them, and one of the things I realized was that Loomis was wrong. Andrew Loomis was completely wrong about what he was saying in this book. I had just never thought about it because I didn't know any better. And so you learn some things about the artist and whatnot when you start kind of diving a little deeper. There's probably other things in there too that are just completely off, but they're related to how his practice worked at the time. And I think what he was doing was a kind of shortcut, a shorthand that was functional, rather than the actual way to do it. But the thing is, when I figured out the actual way, when I finally understood it, or how to do it at least, it's not that hard to do. It's not that big of a deal. And so I don't understand why he didn't just do it the right way. I'm sure he probably knew what it was, or at least had been trained in it at some point. But nope, he was just like, nope, not going to do it. Put it in my book wrong. Maybe he was trying to get ahead of the competition or something. But I always like that example of kind of re-examining the assumptions you have about the sources we learn from, and paying attention to what they're saying, because they're not gods or anything. They're just guys, just people that were figuring things out for themselves, what worked for them. And so it doesn't make them a worse artist or anything. It just surprised me how I need to pay attention to what people actually recommend and what they say more carefully, and so that I understand kind of what's going on in a better way. But I always liked that little story there, because it was very revealing to me. Like I said, the correct way of doing it, the actual technical perspective way of doing it's not that difficult. It's like, there's a lot of really good things about my illustration program, but in retrospect, there's a lot of ways I think it could have been improved. and I understand why they did things the way they did, but I kind of look at it as like, well, if they wanted us to be better at, say, storytelling, then why didn't they teach this thing? Or if they wanted us to be better at composition or business or these other things, why were those things done the way they were? And again, I think it has a lot to do with, the Loomis books are absolutely fantastic. I recommend all of them to everybody. And, but again, you always want to kind of pay attention and get multiple approaches and styles and sources of information, because you're more likely to get what you actually need rather than get misled, even if it's just by accident. So so that was something that I suddenly became aware of when I was needed that information to be correct, and I relied on it and not recognized my own ignorance in the matter. Which is okay too, I guess. Yeah, but you can buy the books. They're not they're not cheap, but they're not like prohibitively expensive. I get them off I got them off Amazon. They were all kind of coming out just after like a year or two after I left. Finished my graduate degree. At least they weren't. I haven't checked them out, but maybe they've gone up in price or out of print or something. I doubt it, but what do you think, Bosch? Anyway, that is page 150. And there's nothing on page 151. And I think that's going to call it for today. A little detail on the tail there. I imagine you put the tail leg on first, and then you jump into the regular legs. I think that's probably the sequence. So obviously, you put your regular legs in, it wouldn't fit. But if you scrunch, put the tail in, and then scrunch in, collapse the legs, then you should be able to put the legs on. That would be my guess in answer to that question. Now I've been thinking about it for a while, but actually I should put the date on here too. Today is the 8th. We are marching up to the new semester soon, huh? 2401. Sorry, not 24. 25. 01. 08. I remembered in my little calendar book to put all the correct year in there, but I keep writing 24 on this book. So again, thanks to everybody that came in. I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next time.